Guys, welcome back to NASA Strength. So today we're learning how to make a simple kimono jacket. I have my tools for this, my ruler, I have my material. Okay, so I have everything I need for this sewing process. The first thing I want to do is to fold my fabric into four. I've gone ahead to do that. It means folding into four means I'll be cutting the front and back together because there will be no zipper for this. All right. So I've gone ahead to fold it into four equal parts. Okay. So I'll just trim out the top part of this because I'll not be needing that part. I'm just trimming off the border of this fabric because I will not be needing that part. All right. I'm just going to trim it off. All right. So I've done that. That means I'm going to be using that part for my starting point. So at that starting point, I went ahead to mark my neck width of 4 inches. All right. Now I'm going to mark out the neck width, the neckline of the back first before doing that of the front. Okay. So remember I said I used 4 inches for the width of that neckline. Then for the depth of the back neckline, I'll be using 2 inches for that. So I will just connect this with a simple C curve. Okay, so I'm marking the back neckline with the front neckline together first before doing that. So from the point of my neck width, I want to mark out how long I want this. So now this is a cut together sleeve kimono. So I want to cut out how long I want this to be. Okay. So the owner of this didn't want it to be too long. So we're going to work with about 17 inches because we need extra for hemming this at the edge. All right. So whatever you're using for that, ensure you add extra to that for your allowance for hemming. Okay, so from that point, I came down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. I'll just use my rule now to connect that point to the neckline. Now, the neckline I'm connecting it to is the neck width. Okay, take notice of that to connect it from that point to the neck width. All right, so I'm just retracing this so you see. Okay, from that point, I'm going to mark how wide I want the arm area to be. Okay, so I'm using 10 inches for my arm width to mark that. You can decide to use it, make it smaller or make it longer. So since I'm using 10 inches as my arm depth, so to say, the bust point I'm working with for this project is 10 inches. So I'm going to use the same line for that. Now the round bust I'm working with is 35 inches. I divided that by 4. I got 8.75, rounded that up to 9, and then added 5 inches extra to mark it down. Now, you know, this is a free kind of dress. Okay, it's free, it's a free kimono, it's open in the front, so it doesn't have to be tight. Okay, so I went ahead to add 5 inches to 9 inches that I had. Okay, so that's marking 14 inches in total. So I'll be using that for the width of this jacket. So I'm just connecting that point to the full length I want for this jacket. Okay, so I'm just making a straight line from that point. So I want to mark out the full length of this jacket. So my client said she didn't want hers to be too long. All right. So we're using a full length of 32 inches in total, including our hemming allowance at the end. So I'm just going to connect it to the sideline I drew earlier. So it means we're using a length of 32 inches, which we reduce to 31 by the time we hem and join the top part of this. Okay. So at the arm area, I'm going to give it a little curve so that while stitching this down, it's not going to be folding at that area. Okay, go ahead and do the same for yours. I'm just going to make a little curve there and I'll just retrace my lines so that you can see this clearly. All right, so I'm using the pink chalk on this fabric. The fabric is multicolored, so it's what's kind of not showing properly. So I just went ahead to ensure the chalk mark is showing. Okay, so what I'm doing right now is to confirm the circumference of the hip. The circumference of the hip is 38 divided by 4. I have 9.5. So that means I have enough allowance for that. Remember, I'm using 14 inches for the width of this, so it works well. Okay, so you can go ahead and confirm the same thing for yours, and you see it's perfect for your hip size, right? So I'll just go ahead to cut this out. take out the parts I'll not be needing. So just watch how I'm cutting this out if you cannot see the chalk I drew properly. Okay, so don't forget to always add allowances, right? Because you'll be hemming this at the bottom and for you to fold down the sleeve area. So if you want to use 15 inches for your sleeve length, ensure you add hemming allowance at that point, right? So this is what we have after I finish cutting it out. This is what it looks like. The next thing I want to do is to take out one piece from this so that we can mark out our front area. Okay, so I've taken out one piece. I have just one piece now. This is going to serve as the front part of this jacket. Okay, so the difference between this is the fact that the front part is open. Remember, it's a jacket, so it's open in front, and the neckline at the front too will be open. Okay, so for the neckline of the front, I'll be using a neck depth of 8 inches. Now, you can decide to use more or you can decide to use less. Okay, remember this part of our jacket is open, the part of this is open, so you can decide to use more or you can decide to use less. So I went ahead to mark down 8 inches. Then I'm going to use my rule to connect this. Okay, it has a V shape at that point, so I'm just going to use my rule to ensure I connect this neckline together. Okay, then after connecting this together, for the opening of my jacket, right, you can go ahead and just slit this throughout. Remember I said it's open, but I'll be marking out 0.5 inch. Okay, I just went ahead to mark 0.5 inch from the point where my neck depth stopped at the front to the full length of this, so that entire part will be cut off. Okay, you can decide to increase yours, right? Just know that the front part of this jacket is open, right? It has no limit to how wide you want it to be, but ensure you don't exhaust all your material while cutting this open. Okay, you can just decide to use 1.5, I'm sorry, to use 0.5 inch like I'm doing mine. Okay, so I've gone ahead to mark at that point. I will just cut this out. Okay, so you can use whatsoever fabric. All right, I didn't say this earlier. I'm using a 3 yards of Ankara fabric for this. So if you're using a crepe fabric, you don't need up to 3 yards, right? I just needed 3 yards, even though I didn't exhaust all of them, okay, because my length wasn't long. So this is what we have for our front piece. After we did that, you can see the neckline, it has that V shape. So the next thing we're going to do is to bring in our back piece and then place this shoulder to shoulder so we can start stitching this down. This is actually a quick tutorial and easy. Okay, so I'll just ensure I place this together that equal and then go over to the machine and stitch it down with 0.5 inch at that top area, right? So I've done that. I'm gonna head to stitch it down. You can see this is what I have after I did that. So I want to work on the end of my sleeve. Okay, I just want to fold in, hem my sleeve ends. Remember we added our allowance to that, so I'll go ahead to use 0.5 inch first to fold and another 0.5 inch to fold down. Okay, so we're exhausting 1 inch at that point. Okay, I'll repeat the same thing for this other part. This is what we have after I did that. Okay, it looks neat after doing that, right? So we want to stitch down the body part of this now. I said this tutorial is actually quick and easy. Okay, this is actually one of the easy things you can learn how to make. Okay, so this is what I'm doing now. I'm just arranging this together so we can go ahead to stitch down the body part of this, right? So ensure they're equal, right? You need to ensure that so you don't have one bigger than the other or one smaller. So I'll go over to the machine, use 1 inch of allowance to stitch this from the armhole area down to the full length of this. All right, so that's what I'll do next. I've gone ahead to do that. This is what I have. Okay, I was unable to iron this out while making this video because I had no light, right? So but this is what I have. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to get the band around the neckline. Yeah, our jacket comes with a band around the neckline. So to get accurately for what you need, remember you always have to take measurements for those things. I'll just take the measurement around my neckline. Okay, so the neckline has to do it from the neck area down to the opening part down to the other end. So you're just simply taking the measurement around the open part of the jacket. I hope you got that, right? So I went ahead to measure mine down, and I had about 75 inches after doing that. So for yours, depending on the length, it can be longer, it can be shorter, right? So this is not like a stamped number to get, right? It just depends on whatever you're working with. Okay. So I've gone ahead to do that. So the next thing I want to do is to cut out that measurement I made. So I brought in the piece of fabric I have left. Now this fabric is folded into two at the stop area. So my measurement will be divided into two while I'm doing this. Now remember I measured 75 inches in length. Okay. So I'm not going to mark 75 inches at this point because it will be longer than what I need. So I'll go ahead and mark 38 inches. Now it's advised you have more than the length you need instead of less. Okay, it's better you have more of it, so if it's excess you can just cut it out. So I went ahead to mark 38 inches instead, right? Just went ahead to mark that out. Now like I said, depending on the length of your kimono jacket, you can be needing a longer band or a shorter band. It just depends on the length of your kimono jacket, right? So for the width of this, I'll be using 4 inches for my width of the width of my band because I'll be folding this later on. Okay, so I just went ahead to mark 4 inches through this. Now, if you're a new subscriber, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I post a new video. And even if you're a returning subscriber, okay, ensure to give this video a thumbs up, all right, after watching this video, and turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I post a new video, right? So let's get back to this. So I'm just using a rule to connect my 4 inches, sorry, together at the ends. Now you can decide to use more for your width. It depends on what you want, but it should not be too much so it's not out there, right? You don't want it to be too much. Okay, so I've gone ahead to make my marks. I'll just cut it out. Okay, so remember I said this is in a fold, so I have this in a fold. That means I have 38 inches on both sides. Okay, and ensure you have more of this instead of less. It's going to work better when you have more. It's better you remove the excess than you don't have it complete. So this is what I have after cutting mine. It looks this way. So the next thing I want to do is to measure the length of this to ensure I have more for what I needed. Now remember I said I needed 75 inches for the band around the opening. So after measuring this out, I had excess from what I needed. So this will work perfectly well for me. So the next thing I'll do is to fold my band into two so I can attach this to the main cloth. So I went ahead to fold this into two, right? You're going to do this throughout this. Ensure your folds are equal on both sides, right? And then I'll bring in the fabric. After folding it into two, I'll bring in the fabric and place this together like this. Okay, ensure both ends are at the same area. You don't want one to be longer than the other. Ensure that all at the same area. Okay, and then go ahead to stitch this down with 0.5 inch and do this around the opening part. So this is what it looks like after I did that. You can see how nice this looks after doing that. Came out well. So the next one to do is to top stitch on this, right? So on the joining part of the band and the fabric, I'll go ahead and top stitch on that part. Okay, I will just go ahead and top stitch there. This is what it looks like. Okay, so our jacket is coming in together gradually. It looks nice. Okay, I've not ironed this. I'll go ahead and do this later. So I'm not putting a pocket for this. Well, if you want a pocket for yours, you just measure your shoulder to waist, go down by 3 inches, mark out the width and the length of the pocket you need, right? So for the hemming of this, I'll fold this by half of an inch and then fold again by half of an inch. That will be the last thing we're doing for this video. So this is the final look of our jacket. Like I said, I've not ironed this out. Okay, by the time I iron this out, it's going to look very good. So this is everything we need for our jacket. Okay, so let me know in the comment section if you prefer your kimono jackets to be longer or shorter. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, right? And ensure you subscribe and turn on your notification bell. Thank you for watching and see you in the next tutorial. Bye.